Okay, so Isaiah 45:2. Here's what I got. This was all just written down, and it all came so fast that it almost felt like I wasn't even part of it. So that's God. So here's what I write for Isaiah 45:2. I will cut in sunder the bars of iron. So God knows the barriers. He knows exactly how to dismantle them and promises he knows them intimately. These are not anything difficult for God. First, in the first part of the verse, he talks about making the crooked paths straight. And then he will break in pieces the gates of brass. Well, where he's talking about, there were 100 gates in Babylon, 25 on each side. And so this is not just one gate and you're in and you've got your victory. This is 100 gates that were secured with bars of iron. These were impenetrable, unable to get through on your own. There was no way to do a sneak attack. You had to do a full-on battle, and the enemy knows you're attacking and can do a full-scale battle with you. So not only are you trying to take down the gates, but you've also got to fight the enemy at the same time. So when I'm reading this, what I'm seeing is conquered territory once again. I'm seeing a heavily fortified fortress that has been conquered, that has been taken over by the enemy, that has riches beyond all understanding in there that they don't even know. But I see this as promised land. But it's not going down without a fight. It's going down only with a bloody battle where you fight with literally everything you have. And he fights and he takes everything he can to try to defeat you. So not only are you battling the enemies, you are cutting and breaking the gates down, which must have been incredibly difficult considering they were secured with iron to make them stronger. So imagine you're fighting on every side. You've got some of the best warriors, and you get one gate down and you're like, all right, you have 99 more to go. Then you're fighting. All right, I got 2 down. The battle rages on, more bloodshed, more attacks, and they continue and they become more and more vicious. At first, the enemy would be confident that they're able to keep you out. Every gate broken down would worry them more. The more real the idea that you could take over and get the treasures they've hidden with every gate that is broken, they would have put on a full assault and given it everything to defend and keep you out. What does this mean to you? To me, it's a promised land that I have no idea what is in there. But I made a video a while ago about that this attack, and there was conquered territory, and we got to fight because God has promised us this land. So when he talks about Israel, it's the promises that he has for us. He's going to give us the land. But this is not some little itty bitty thing where he's just going to have us show up and hand us the keys. Well, he says the keys are ours. So is the land, but we're going to fight, and we're going to fight. I have the word exponentially coming into my head. There's going to be such a great and big fight, and it's only going to get harder and harder. And think about it. Every time you break down one gate, you've still got 25. You've got 25 on each side. So every time you break down one gate, you've still got all those barriers to go through. And every time there's another gate, there's more precious things inside. And so you break it down, and there's more men, there's more fights, there's more enemies to defeat. And so how on earth they're going to break it into pieces, not just cut it in half, but break it into pieces so that it can't be put back together. And the closer and closer you get to the heart of the promise, the territory, whatever's been taken over by the enemy, the fiercer the battle, because you're going to have some of the the biggest, most important people involved. that have taken over. So these guys would be absolutely powerful, skillful, wise. They're going to know exactly how to win a battle because they won a battle and then they knew what it took to keep it under control. And so as you get closer and closer to the promise, the battle's going to get worse. Okay? And so let me finish this. Every gate broken down would worry them more. The more real the idea that you could take over and the treasures they've hidden with every gate that is broken. So they're getting more and more freaked out. So they're going to attack with even a higher level of viciousness. And they would have put on a full assault and given it everything to defend it and keep you out. God says that they are no match for him. He knows what they're made of, and he is not afraid. He's not talking about the enemy. Well, he knows what they're made of too. He's talking about all the barriers that have been put in place to keep you out. He knows what they're made of, and he is not afraid. He knows how to dismantle each barrier. There is nothing that can withstand God. Why did it take so long for the salvation or for the conquered territory to be conquered again or saved? Why? That's what I always think. Well, why did it take so long? Why did so much struggle and pain and hardship have to happen? Because all the right people needed to be in place. All the right people needed to be where they needed to be so that it would go the way it was going to go. Because he needed you. Okay, and I have something that I wrote. He needed you to fight in this battle for him because he knows you will not stop. He knows what you're made of and what you can endure. The people before, maybe they had come in and tried, and maybe they fought with everything they had, but they weren't prepared to go for the full-on assault. And a lot of people, they get going and then they can't handle it and they quit. Doesn't mean anything about them. It means it was that hard. But God gave this to you because he knows that you have the ability to make it through to the conquered land, the territory. The situation had to be right with the right people in place so it comes together the way it needs to be completed. This has all been orchestrated by God for a great victory. God has orchestrated the entire battle, and you will be victorious. He says, okay, first, I know exactly the path you need to take. I know exactly how many barriers are put in place. I know exactly how many enemies are going to be there. I know how to dismantle them. I know how to put them so that they are not able to be brought back up. So he's not afraid. He knows each gate, each lock, and has a plan for how to take them out. He has everything he needs and is prepared. He's fully stocked and ready for the battle. You don't need to worry that you don't have enough because he knows exactly what you need before the battle even begins. The coolest part about this is that this prophecy was written 200 years before the battle that is described in Isaiah happened. 200 years. It wasn't even created yet, but God's giving it its promise. So Babylon had many treasures that were taken in the battle, hidden away, spoils of war. So when Cyrus took over this place in history, okay, $353 million worth of valuables. And God told this prophecy 200 years before it happened. Word for word, what would happen. God knew that everything that was being held inside of the gates, all those treasures, he knew about that. He knew that those were stolen treasures. He knew about the plundering, the exploits, the unfair treatment. God knew and planned out how it would be righted. It looked like the enemy had permanently conquered those lands and territories. But the Lord would break down and cut into pieces all the things placed to keep you from entering into the land. You are brought here to bring freedom. The harder the fight, the bigger the victory, the more valuable the treasures are inside. Not just one slice or cut would break down all of these gates, right? Because you could just piece them back together. But they were cut into pieces, broken apart, separated, so they couldn't be put back together. So this isn't going to be a battle, but this is the war. Because at the end, they can't find any of these pieces anymore. There were 100 gates, and they had them secured with iron. And they don't have any of those pieces anymore because they were taken apart and moved away so that they were never able to be constructed again. 200 years before it happened, it was before the bars were even built, God was bringing them down. You have been placed in this place, but the battle is not yours, it's God's. The battle is already known with all the weaknesses of the enemy because nobody can compete with God. Nobody. So why did you go through this? This battle was orchestrated because you have the faith, you have the resiliency, the endurance to fight until the fight is over, to get this wonderful victory for Jesus. You have purpose in this pain. You have purpose in all of this. And it's going to bring freedom. Freedom that is not even able to be imagined because you don't know the hidden riches and treasures that are behind all of the fortified walls and gates. But there's more than you could ever even imagine. All you have to do is just believe that God gave you everything. He's got it all laid out. He knows exactly what it's going to take to win this battle and win the war.